And we are live. Welcome everyone to the first ever episode of the Rip Roaring Reds podcast. My name is Grev and I'm joined by my co-host Jace. Jace, how are we doing this evening?
Yeah, mate. Good. Living on the rice baby train. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm excited. Yesterday was novel actually on a Saturday to be given an announcement because I'm sure we're a Friday team through and through. I'm sure it's always Fridays for our announcement. Timber was on Friday, so I just didn't expect it.
I think it's the lawyers. It's all the lawyers' fault, right?
It is the lawyers, yeah. I mean, it's probably the longest transfer saga that I can recall. So certainly to get that out the door and done and dusted is a sigh of relief for me, for sure.
Did you live through Higuain?
True, although I mean I've lived through a couple of those different. Was it Janvier? That's another one that always rears its head every single transfer window. That never.
And Zonzi.
Yeah, there's been a few of those. Right, before we get into the big subjects of the day, I'm going to whack on the introduction music, and then we'll get straight back into it.
Saka. Saka! That is a diamond of a goal! It's Bergkamp. That's magnificent!
This is my club. Fucking love this football club.
Henri. What a goal! Gabriel Martinelli! He's scoring for Arsenal!
Right, as I said, welcome everyone. My name is Grev. As always, when we start our episodes, we're going to start with what is known as the Rip Roaring Review. So the Rip Roaring Review is effectively, as the title says, it's a review of kind of what's going on in your world, in the Arsenal sphere. What is your bold statement? What is the big news that's coming your way? We've got a few other subjects to talk about, Jason. Maybe let's try something a little bit different, but it's up to you. You're going to be first. Where are you going to go with your Rip Roaring Review?
Well, a standout one for me, it was Ethan Nwaneri. I think, based on watching one pre-season game, he's going to be big for us. He has strength, skill, good touch. We all saw the turn that he did, which I think has had a lot of press. But there's some of the balls he was playing as well. He just looks like a real promising talent. And in the moment, I think he looks better than someone like Fabio Vieira. I really want Fabio to be good for us, but he needs to kick on from last season. And if you've got someone who's got a bit more strength, which is what we need in the Premier League, I can see him getting some minutes, especially if he keeps playing like Harry was. So, yeah, that's me. A little bit controversial.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I've seen a lot of comments in a similar vein to what you just said, but I think I did see. I'm not too sure he's travelling with the United States tour.
Is he not?
Missed off. No, I think he was missed off. I'm pretty sure only one of the
I saw some.
Koizbury, I can't remember how to pronounce his name, but he's the only youth player that we've got on the plane. So a few of them.
That's surprising. Someone said on Twitter. I must admit I've not checked it. I should have done. But Reece Nelson was not on the plane either.
There's a few different omissions. I suppose when we get through to later, maybe we can go into some of that because it might maybe give away some secrets as to what business we might be doing in the window.
Well, we wouldn't sign Reece Nelson to a contract and then sell him.
No, true. Maybe it must be an injury for him.
Or maybe we want to increase his value. Maybe we will.
Time down. So it's a very good review there, Jason. I think somewhere that certainly I wasn't planning on going, so I think that's a really, really good structured point. I think for me, my review currently on the back of a pretty substantial week for us as a club. For me, I think the biggest thing that stands out is we're just building a lot of flexibility into our team right now and a lot of fluidity into our team. I think if you look back at last year, we were quite predictable and we didn't really become unpredictable until we got injuries, until something changed and we had to kind of really change that starting 11. We didn't really rotate. We didn't really kind of throw different curveballs at different lineups. And I think that the type of players, these players that we're signing can just play in so many positions. I know that's what Arteta likes. He likes dynamic. He likes kind of fluidity in his players that can play right back, centre back. But I honestly believe that that's kind of what he's doing on purpose. When we go to games, you're not going to necessarily know how we're going to set up. Like last year, we were really obvious. Our starting 11, all of us could pretty much write it. I think if you asked any of us right now to write what you think our starting 11 would be on the first game of the season, I think you struggle.
I have an idea.
There are some that are guaranteed, but there are others.
I have an idea, but I mean, I think the big thing, I do agree with you, and I could take a guess, but you're right, I wouldn't be certain. I think that the interesting thing is whether you play back 4 or back 3, because bringing in Timber, having Saliba, having Gabriel, Kivior, means you could play a solid back 3. Ben White, again, back 3. But then if you've got Tomiyasu, if you've got Zinni, if you've still got Tierney, are you playing a back 4 with more? I mean, well, you want with players that are going to step into the midfield. It's going to be hard for any team, I guess, to try and plan how to play against us. So I guess it's good, right? Having that depth.
Definitely
interesting to see what we do with it.
Yeah, I mean, you say a 3. I still definitely think we'll go for the 4. And I think one thing that we did a lot last year in particular was we went really hard, really strong for like 60 minutes, or at least the first half. And our drop-off was quite significant after that. I think it was quite telling. A lot of the players that get tired. You might be finding just we do, we're all used to the Arsene Wenger 70-minute substitute. Now I think maybe that just comes a bit earlier, perhaps, and we actually just we get some fresh legs on earlier in the game. It really depends what the game's structured like, but I definitely think we've got so many options now. There's certainly going to be some outgoings, of course, but I think we've got a lot of flexibility in that squad now.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I really want is we did shut up shop. Well, that's actually no. Depends which games you're thinking of. I think early at the beginning of last season, we were like ahead and we shut up shop. But there were also a lot of games, when we were at the Emirates, when we were down like by a couple of goals and we had to get back into it. And so it was like the team, were going longer than they should have done ideally. Yeah. And that's where we lack that depth, which, hopefully we're going to have. I say have, we do have in definitely in the defense.
Yeah.
Midfield. Actually, I'm going to pause because we're going to talk about this later.
We are going to talk about this.
We're going to go into it too much. But what I was going to say is just, I think if we're going to think about the attack, that's definitely something like, if we're going to keep going after being 2-0 up at 60 minutes, that attack needs to keep going and going and going.
It does, definitely.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, we did kind of touch upon it. So I suppose the big subject that we're all going to discuss is a Rice baby. Massive news yesterday. The most expensive British player, Arsenal's most expensive player. It is a monumental signing by all accounts for Arsenal and a really big deal. And I think other clubs will be looking at this signing with nervousness, with jealousy, with a lot of things going on. I want you to just, break it down for me, Jason. How are you feeling about this signing? How does it rank? You've probably got a bit more Arsenal history than I have, I reckon, in your brain. Where does this rank for you in terms of like signings?
I mean, if I think about all the signings, I'd say Dennis Bergkamp was the transformational signing. It was probably, I was just about old enough to remember that. My dad was like, we signed Dennis Bergkamp. And I didn't realize at the time how big a player he was. But then obviously, as soon as he starts doing his thing, you realize how big a player he was. I was very young at the time, so I didn't know about Inter Milan and Ajax. But I think that's the most obvious comparison. Like some would say Ozil, sorry. But I think, he didn't kick on. It was good for us, but he wasn't transformational. And Dennis was. So you got to hope. I'm hoping there's a lot of hope there. And I think we'd expect it for the amount that we've paid. But I'm incredibly excited by it, just because we can sing Rice Baby, it's a great song to sing in the ground. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be awesome. He's I mean, there was a video I saw on Twitter the other day of him at like, I don't know how old he was. He'd broken into the West Ham team, but it was a couple of years ago, and it was just a skills thing, and it's just his first touch, the way he brings balls down, the way he can ping balls, just the way he can block transitions. He's going to be awesome. I really hope he's going to be awesome. I'm excited. I'm probably underplaying how excited I genuinely am, but I think that's because
you're excited. I can tell.
It's just because I think at the moment, like, there's still some questions in the midfield, and when we talk about more players there, I think I'm a little bit unsure on what we're going to do with him. Like, everyone's assuming he's going to be in the party position.
Yeah.
But, you know, we talk about depth, and I think we need Partey and Rice. So it's like, would he play in the 6? Would he play in the 8? Who knows? So it's hard to like say what I'm expecting from him, because I don't really know where he's going to play in the formation. And I guess that's Arteta's plan, right? As you were saying, like, not knowing where our players are going to play is going to be a big thing. So yeah, just really excited. Can't wait to see him in the kit on the field. Can't wait for that first. Well, we're going to the Community Shield, so I can't wait for a Community Shield game to see him in the flesh. And
do you think he'll go straight in? You think that's exact? I mean, it's hard to kind of think that you put 105 million into a player and don't put him straight in. I know, but like, you know, gelling with the squad, getting that under his belt, getting some of the games in the preseason under his belt.
I think he'll go straight in. He'll play some pre-seasons, definitely. Like, probably 45 minutes seems to be. We change it after 45 usually. I'd hope he plays against City. But I could also see why you wouldn't play him against City, because you don't want to get absolutely like smashed 3-1 or 4-1 like we sometimes do against City, even though we play well. And we used to. You don't want, from a confidence perspective. If that was to happen, I'd hope to think it wouldn't, especially if we've got Saliba, you know, the defenders that we actually need fit, because, you know, that's when we played City last season. We never had our first team squad fit. No, we never had Partey and Saliba, for example, together. That was our core.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Would be so important. So that's when we play against them.
So yeah, I'm not sure. I'd like to think we will. I mean, either way, I definitely see him starting Forest first game of the season. So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay.
Can't wait to get back in the ground.
No, me neither. I think that's probably one of the most exciting things that I am looking forward to. I think for me, as a signer, I think one of the greatest things that I was going to ask you about this, and I'll give you a second to respond, I suppose, in a minute. The announcement video is different to other ones that we've done in the past. I thought I was going to experience a lot more pomp and circumstance when they put on their YouTube that it's going to be an announcement at 1 o'clock. We all knew it was going to be Rice, but I think we don't know what it was going to be, and we got this kind of look behind the curtain into our training ground, into where they showcase the videos and kind of review what's kind of been happening in games. And then Declan, there he was, just sat at the back, like in amongst the squad, and they said welcome, they said hello, and they gave him an opportunity to speak, and he gave a couple of words, and I think that was really good. Like, he was not a shrinking violet by any means. He's a big composing lad. If you've seen him in there, he's certainly in amongst it, and he kind of said why he was there, which is to win trophies, which, you know, that's what we all want. And I just seeing him there seeing it in reality. That was, for me, such a big moment, because it's been such a long time coming, and I think he sets us up for like 5 more years at least. I think the deal, it might be 5 plus 1. It could be 4. Is it 5 plus 1?
He's going to be 30 by the time his contract. We'll take the plus 1 if we'll take the plus 1.
He's probably, I mean, depending on what happens with Odegaard, he could be a future club captain for us, right? He has that stature, he has that commanding voice, he has that relationship with other players that he can bring into that role. But Odegaard's a good captain. I'm not downplaying that by any means. But I think, you know, 5 years, like I say, it's going to be 30. That's gonna set up our spine. You've got Saliba tied down to a good contract. You've got Rice in there, good contract. I think we're just so well set up now, and I can't see. I've seen some people on Twitter, for example, kind of downplaying our ability to move this season. You know, some people maybe call it the second season syndrome a little bit for teams that come up from the Championship into the Premier League. But some people say after you've had Liverpool have done it. I think you've seen it from Liverpool sometimes, where they've just gone hell for leather for an entire season and then kind of fallen off a little bit just because of the fatigue that's involved with playing at that level for so long. I just can't see it. the players that we're signing, the team that we're building, the manager we've got, I can't see us anywhere but where we were last season and more, hopefully. And I think Rice really does bring us there.
Yeah, I think he does. Yeah, I think he takes our midfield to another level. And touch. I'm looking for some wood. Maybe this IKEA desk is wood.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I he doesn't seem to be a player gets injured, a bit like Granit Xhaka. So it's kind of a like for like, but just with a higher ceiling. So yeah, I think that's as long as he can integrate seamlessly, which I think he can with Saka. He knows all the England
Ramsdale,
boys.
yeah, he's got some good relationships with some of those players.
So
already.
I hope he just kicks on straight away. I hope it's just natural for him.
When you were talking about where he's going to play, because I see him as the 6. I see him as the sitting. I don't necessarily know that's how he plays for West Ham. When I've seen him play for England, it's probably not how he plays in England, but that's kind of how I see him fitting into our system. I think, like I say, there's a lot of talk of Havertz as that left-sided 8 in the Xhaka kind of role. I mean, we could talk about Havertz just from his. I only saw snippets of the Nuremberg game. Wasn't setting the world on fire, but never. I don't think I expected him to in such a small space of time. But I do see Rice having to sit, particularly if we're not going to have Partey, or if we don't have Partey.
Yeah, I think that there's something about Thomas Partey that I don't want to lose from the team. And I think it's the way he can move the ball between players in tight angles. And I've not watched enough of Rice at West Ham to know if he has that kind of same capability, the way the ball sometimes sticks to Partey's feet. And that's something I don't want to lose that. I want both. Right? I think everyone. Yeah, I think having those two in the midfield together would be, and Odegaard would just be amazing. I think that everyone. I feel like other fans who don't, I'm guilty of not following other clubs. So I'm like, I don't, I have my opinion on Man United, Chelsea, whoever, but I don't watch them week in, week out. So I'm sure their fans will tell me my opinions of their club are wrong. But I think the same people don't watch Arsenal week in, week out. So I've got mates who, they don't rate Thomas Partey. And I'm like, he was the best midfielder in the league for the first 6 months of last year until he had that kind of downwards patch and a few injuries and bits. And so I don't want to lose that. Because, you could bring in a Caicedo or a Lavia, but I don't think that they're matured yet to that. So if we want to push on, I'm going into the next topic now, but depth. And I think having Partey and Rice together would just be great.
Well, I suppose a good segue then. So, yeah, both excited by Rice. Can't wait to see him on the carpet. But let's move on to our kind of next subject, which is all going to be about buy, sell, keep. There's a lot of players in our club now are feeling a bit like maybe Chelsea a little bit in the amount of players that we've got. And there's certainly going to be some movement in and around the club. We've done a bit of buying already. Obviously, we've got Rice, Timber and Havertz already through the door. So maybe we'll skip the buy firstly, at least, because there definitely will be some. Well, I've heard there might be at least 1 or 2, maybe more incomings. But let's look at the sell, Jace. If you're going to give me, 1 or 2 players that you're looking to sell, get out into the shop window, who are you looking at right now?
Well, is there sell or people we just have to get rid of? I think there's people we need to sell, and I think there's just people we just have to let go.
There's going to be players that are going to be difficult to sell.
We're going to have to pay up. We're going to have to pay them off. So Pepe, I think, is one. He wasn't interesting. He wasn't in the squad that went to Germany. He's not on, and he's not on the flight to the US. I don't think. I don't know if he's injured. I'm assuming not, because Cedric went to Germany, and I'm assuming we're going to have to pay him off as well, unless we're trying to flog him to maybe a newly promoted Premier League club or someone might need a right back. So Cedric and Pepe, I think, are the 2 ones where I'm like, don't know if we'll get anything. Pepe, especially not because of probably his contract. He was an expensive signing on a high wage. No one's going to want to take that wage on. In regards of like who we need to sell to actually make money, if Tomiyasu stays fit, then in theory you've got Zinni, Kivior, and Tomiyasu who could play potentially in a left back position. I really like Kieran Tierney, but I'm not sure if Arteta does.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he can play in the same role that his other left backs have played in.
Yeah, and he's cash. He's cash on the table. He's a high quality left back.
How much do you think you're really going to like feasibly get from this? So I don't disagree with you that there's money on the table that we can get from. He's not, Arsenal are fundamentally not a great selling team. We never have been for a long time.
We bought him for 25. He's matured, got used to the Premier League. He's Scottish, not technically English, but I'd still say there's a British tax. So you've got to say, like, surely you could get 35 million from Newcastle for him.
I just don't. I don't. Like I said, I don't disagree with you. I just don't think that money is gonna. That money won't come. I think 25 million is probably the ceiling you're going to get for him where he is at the moment. Potentially because he had, although he's Premier League proven, didn't get a lot of minutes last season, and when he did, it wasn't like he set the world on fire. He's a good utility player, no doubt. I think if you said you watched some of the highlights from the Nürnberg game. I don't know if you caught Kiwior, but he was very good at left back.
Yeah, he had a good game.
Very good at left back.
So Tierney's cash on the table. I think we have to try and take, because we do need to buy one or two more. I think so. If we're going to need, we've probably spent all of our money now, so we've got to sell. I just hope that it doesn't make any of the work that we do buying or selling harder, because people know we spent our money and need money in. That might make it more difficult. Reece Nelson's an interesting one because we extended his contract, so I'm assuming he's staying, but the fact that he's not on the plane to the US is weird. Unless he's injured, there's no reason why he shouldn't be on the plane to the US. So maybe we just extended his contract to increase his value and keep him happy with a bigger wage. But
seems a weird one to do that. Like you say, maybe Caicedo was kind of in that ilk. Obviously got a new deal at Brighton, but there's movement looking to happen there. This could be the same kind of vein, but Caicedo's shop windowism is much higher ceiling compared to Reece Nelson's. I would say he's got the goal against Bournemouth in the lofty pictures frames and everything else at the Emirates Stadium, I'm sure, and we were there. It was such an amazing moment. But other than that, what is there? Do you really want to keep him? I'm not sure.
I it's kind of, I guess it goes into one of the topics I was going to have with buy was the question is Reece Nelson really a Saka level replacement? Like that's the ultimate question, right? We have to rest Saka more with Champions League.
Hold that thought, because I've got I do think, having watched one game, there's certainly something on the table. I think there. I think in terms of, if you're talking about Sal, that there's two players here, right, that you've kind of missed maybe. One of them's got to go.
Rob Holding's got to go.
Oh, right, Rob Holding's got to go. Well, let's Rob Holding for Besiktas. I think it was 1.5 million. I think it was something along those lines. I was like, literally, I'll pay the money. Just take him, please. Balogun already, Nketiah is the one for me. Maybe it's harsh. He has been a good servant to the club. I agree. Balogun or Nketiah, those two, on the table right now, it's a really difficult decision, I think, for Arteta to make, because you've got Eddie, who came in last year when he was needed and did really well to replace Jesus when we needed a striker. He was scoring goals. It wasn't for a lengthy period of time, but we were all worried when Jesus got injured after the World Cup, what was going to happen. And Eddie banged for a short period of time and really did help us. But then he did taper off quite massively after that. And then you've got Balogun, who's obviously just been, you can bring up all the Farmer League callbacks as much as you like, I suppose. I mean, there's going to be an Arsenal player that you could talk about in this same sentence. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. Balogun did do well. And so it's kind of like, I think for me, Balogun just seems like a bit tastier, only because it's just the unknown. You know what you're getting with Eddie.
It's new. It's
You've
new
seen
and
it. Exactly.
shiny.
It's a shiny toy, right? It's the unknown a little bit. It's the fresh face. It's the only thing I would say is I don't think Balogun seems very hungry to me. There was a really good clip from the All or Nothing documentary when we had it, where I can't remember who it was. Someone was talking to Eddie in the cafeteria where they were eating, and Eddie was just like, "Just stop whinging and get your head down." And I can't remember who it was. I don't know if you do.
Laconga was moaning about
was,
not playing. Eddie was like,
was.
"We're like, none of us are playing, bro." Like,
yeah, it was Sambi. So and it was like, for me, that really did, like, Eddie has the right mentality. Like, I'm going to ignore Sambi for now because he's another player that we could probably put in the sell column.
We've got to cash in on Sambi.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think out of those two? Where's your head at? I'm leaning on Balogun just because he does seem like Emperor's New Clothes a little bit to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Balogun too. I think I feel a loyalty to Eddie, right?
Yeah.
I feel the loyalty to Eddie. Like, he came in,
he's a Highlander, right?
And
well.
in a time when we were both 2 times he's come in. There wasn't just the Jesus injury. When he was awesome and he kept us going. But do you remember end of the season before when Lacazette just wasn't scoring? We didn't have Aubameyang because we'd given him to Barcelona, and he was getting games and he was scoring. I think we went to a couple of them. He was in front of us. I think he scored a few in front of us.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like, you know, he's done what's been asked of him. The problem is, I don't feel confident enough with his ceiling. Like, I just think he's a great Premier League striker, and what you see is what you get. But we need to go levels as a team, and I think Balogun has more levels.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm thinking. I think there's just something about him. Like, there's something about the way he can move with the ball. Like, I think because I use your BT Sport account. I've watched quite a bit of league. I watched quite a bit of Ligue 1. He's got a movement. He's got a bit of a swagger. It reminds me a little bit of Thierry. Just the pace, some of the raw pace, some of the ways he can hold and move with the ball. And I think he can just, I feel like he can score from pretty much anywhere, which is, an amazing talent to have. Whereas Eddie is a fox in the box.
He's a poacher,
fox in the box. Really? Yeah, he's a poacher. So I think I'd go. Yeah, I think I'm going Balogun. Like, he's to score that many goals even in Ligue 1 is good. I mean, look how many players have we taken from the Ligue 1 as strikers that have been good for us?
Not a striker, but Pepe. Pepe was a winger that we got from there, and
he's a winger and manager transitions. But if we look at like Giroud wasn't, we're not saying Balogun's going to be next Thierry Henry. Probably, if he is, amazing. But Giroud's come from Ligue 1. He's been a decent striker. I still don't think we should have ever sold him, in my personal opinion. I think he was an alternate to having Laka or Aubameyang as someone that can bring the ball down and connect the players. He did well at Chelsea and he's done well at AC Milan since. So he was a great player from Ligue 1. I'd say actually now I've run out of strikers, but like Thierry was originally born and raised in Ligue 1. Anelka from PSG. Just so many players that were strikers for us that have come from there. Like, I think, it's not the most competitive league in the world, but that's because you've got one team that's just decided to buy the league up. But if you take that team out of consideration, it's quite a competitive league, right? It's quite a competitive league. Lyon, Marseille, like they're all, and France just produces talent. So you're playing with decent players in that league, because it just producing talent. Like, Paris, I think, is like the biggest talent pool in Europe for new breeds of players. So Ligue 1 has some great young players, and if Balogun's been playing with them and he can compete with them, then he's going to be able to compete with them in the future too. And those guys are going to be the guys that are going to be in the Premier League, and in half of them have been signed by Real Madrid.
We're going to sign Mbappe next year, right? So that's
I my love for Mbappe from when he was at Monaco. I said he's the next Thierry Henry, and I wanted him then. I'm not sure I want him now. I think
I don't
he
think
might
the
cause a
ego
bit too many
and
problems.
stuff. Yeah, exactly. I would say,
But,
just to challenge you a little bit, right? Like I was going to say, like you mentioned a second ago, that clubs are going to need to. They know we've spent, our powder is not dry anymore. We've spent it, and we're going to need to accumulate some money. Out of the two, Balogun is certainly the one that's going to command, I think, a greater value, a selling value than Eddie. I would say. I think his ceiling, like you say, is probably higher, and
does
so
he
we
want
can probably.
Does he want to stay?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think he'll stay if he's not being. Well, he's definitely not going to be first striker. Although this is what going to leave. When I said to you, hold that thought. I think if you had have watched any of the friendlies we've already seen, Jesus was playing on the wing for quite a significant chunk of that game, and that has in the past Guardiola and other managers have used Jesus in that role as well. That's not to say that he can be that Saka replacement that you kind of mentioned earlier, but there is an option there, and we haven't really necessarily used that as much as a weapon in our arsenal last year. Could we and thus play Balogun already up top? I suppose that's something we could do.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's an option. I think Balogun did have it. Looked like he came on the wing from what I saw when he did come on. But I mean, he had a few. It was a way that I know he missed the chances. He hit the post and hit the side man.
Yeah.
But it was the way that he, the way that he created.
He creates space, doesn't he? He creates chances for himself.
And that for me was, I was like, I don't see Eddie doing that. And that's the, again, the flickers I see. I mean, all Arsenal fans look to Thierry, right? And that's what Thierry used to do to an extent. So, yeah, he is money on the table. If it all comes down to whether he wants to play for Arsenal, that's it. I think if he wants to play for Arsenal and be prepared to get a lot of minutes and a lot of games, but may not, he's not going to be first choice above Jesus straight down the middle. So if he's prepared to work for his place and he wants to stay, then fine, sell Eddie. If he doesn't want to do that, then of course, then you cash in because he's money on the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree with you. Yeah, I think so. I think Balogun is where we're leaning, but I suppose it really depends on who comes in for them. And like you say, probably Eddie. Eddie strikes me as like a Palace or maybe like a Fulham.
Everyone says Palace.
I don't know. I don't know whether or not it just feels like he suits that system, and it's London, so it's also that as well. Like a lot of players do like just keeping the same kind of city in the same area. That can kind of help. I don't know. We'll see. I think we mentioned Sambi. Sambi's a sell for sure. I'm surprised you didn't mention this guy, Cedric. What is he still doing at our club is unbelievable to me. I just don't get it.
You know my feelings on Cedric.
Well, I think you still got a soft spot. I mean, we've heard a lot about your soft spot for Thierry Henry during this podcast. I'm sure we'll learn more as the time goes by about your love and soft spot for Hector Bellerin as well.
Moderating the mustache on Hector Bellerin.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Cedric played. He did like 2 crosses in the bit that I'd watched, and they were ballooned somewhere in a stand. And I just don't understand how we still got him on our books.
He has a good cross on him occasionally, right? But then it's like, mate, I mean, maybe that's why we bought Havertz, but because it's like we've got the last couple of seasons when he did play for us, it was like, mate, we don't have anyone that can head that in. So just have you not seen how we play? Stop it. It's like Thomas Partey when he tries to shoot for 50 yards. It's like, mate, unless someone plays it. Yeah, but if someone plays it back to him like that, back, and he can hit it first time and whip it, fine, go for it, because you're going to put it in the top corner. You've done it twice. And against Spurs. That was brilliant. But anytime he has like time to take control, line it up, and then he's just going over the bar. So just don't bother me. Anyway, yeah.
Okay. I mean, there's some good. I mean, you've got a few sales. Is there anybody there in the market then that you're looking at getting some of that deadwood? Maybe getting someone on the table for Tierney, for Balogun. You might have another 50, 60 mil to play with. Who are you choosing? Where are you looking?
I mean, it's difficult. I don't think we're in the race. I think I want to be in the race for Caicedo. If we're going to go, so here's the thing. Let's talk about the party situation, right? Because I think this comes into play of who we buy. I think I said to you before, we have said, and I think everyone said, we need depth in midfield. We need depth in midfield. So for me, it's like we had a great midfield last year, but we think that can go up a level. We bought Rice, great. But that doesn't mean you go and sell all your your best midfielders. You need to add to it. So this is the thing. Like Xhaka, I didn't want him to go, but I get that. I think there was obviously other circumstances. He wanted to go, and we weren't gonna. The money was on the table. He had a good contract offer. Fine, but that doesn't mean you let Partey go too. Yeah, I don't think. I can't see. I mean, obviously he's. There's rumors he signed a deal with one of the Saudi Arabian clubs, but I mean,
I know what you mean. I know
what are we going to do if we take our two core? Odegaard is the 10, the creator. If you take him out of consideration, you're taking basically your two strongest midfielders from a depth perspective last season and putting two new ones in. You're not adding to it. You're not adding to your midfield.
Yeah.
So I just don't think that we can.
I don't think we're going to afford to lose him, like you say. I think that he was such a good player for us last year. His insight into the game, his pass, his legs just seem gangly to me. They can just seem to reach and get balls that nobody else seems to can. He reminds me a lot of Vieira, Diaby.
Yeah.
Like he reminds me of that style of player. So I agree, you can't rip out our spine, but I just there's I don't want to get into. There's baggage associated with Partey that is there that I think might be playing into decision making. We'll see. And like I say, Havertz does seem to have feeling like he's coming into one of those positions as well. For me, it's Lavia. I don't think we've got enough money for Caicedo to bring in, and I just don't see us doing it. I think Chelsea will land him.
I want.
I know Lavia's not ready made. I know he's the one.
If we let Partey go, we have to go Caicedo.
Yeah, I just can't see us being able to afford
it. But if we keep Partey, then Lavia is probably a good replacement for what.
I think it's great. It'd be such a good understudy. Like imagine him just sitting underneath Partey and learning and growing through him. I think is a fantastic opportunity.
I was trying not to be disrespectful to Sambi, but we thought Sambi was going to be the understudy to Partey, and he hasn't. When he's had the chance,
who Sambi reminds me of, and this is where we were talking a little bit about Guendouzi. Like his attitude just seems very Guendouzi like.
I don't think he's a troublemaker like Guendouzi. But yeah, I mean, do you know what though? I love Guendouzi. I loved him. I mean, apart from the fact that it was the trouble he caused, I think it got him kicked out of the club. But he was a great player. His attitude, I think, has probably let his
that's what it is. It's that quality and that attitude kind of needs to marry up in order to be successful at Arsenal, right? We are a club that hold quite a lot of ethical and class attachment to the way in which we do our business, and I think that was.
You wait till he signs for Aston Villa and comes back kissing the badge in front of us next season.
Can't wait.
Yeah,
right.
Or West Ham,
one of those. They've all got the same kit this year, anyway. Let's. So there's a big article that you've been reading about, Jace. I don't know a great deal about it, but you're going to give us some insights. It's the ESPN FC 100. Do you want to just give us a quick lowdown of what that is and what you want to talk about?
Yeah, it's the guys over at ESPN, Julian Laurens and a few of the other guys. They do like a 100 best players and managers in football. And I've been listening to the pods and they did and reading through some of the lists of players. And there's a lot of Arsenal players in the top 100, which is good because, maybe a few years ago that would not have been the case.
Yeah.
But I want to get your view on some of these players. Who's in there, where they've been ranked and who's missing, and get your perspective on it. So, and managers.
Right.
Yeah.
I've not looked at this list, like Jason said, so I don't know what he's talking about, right? So I've got fresh eyes.
So let's do the managers first. So they've in the top 10 of the managers. So no surprise, Mikel was in there.
Okay.
He's been placed at number 4.
Okay.
So above Mikel Arteta, you've got
I know.
Pep
God, no, who
Guardiola.
number one is. Yeah, number one. Pep's number one, right?
Oh no, he's number yeah, he's number one.
You actually had me there almost. That's close.
Carlo Ancelotti at number 2.
Okay.
Next one, Luciano Spalletti, Napoli. I think that's fair. He's
Napoli had a
one
great
in the
season last year.
Yeah.
It was so close.
And then Arteta's number 4. So given that we didn't win a trophy and everyone else... Actually, no. Did Real Madrid win a trophy? Barca won the league, didn't they?
They not win like what was the equivalent of the League Cup in Spain?
I don't know. I think there's no Galacticos in Spain anymore. I don't watch that much of a La Liga.
Who was number 5? He was just behind Mikel.
Jurgen.
Okay. I mean, they didn't win a trophy.
Yeah, I mean, and they had a really bad season, but I think everyone expects them to be back, right? Everyone expects.
Yeah, I mean, everyone. If you were looking at it as just a managerial kind of thing, then Klopp. I mean, for us, like number 4's, I think number 4 is high, probably too high. There's a lot to be made from that.
Okay, so let me just list I'll be very quick and list the rest, and you can tell me. So Argentinian manager Scaloni, number 6, won the World Cup. Yeah. Fair enough. Ten Hag, number 7.
Okay.
One season at United, he's number 7. I mean, he was good manager at Ajax, but not sure. De Zerbi, at number 8.
Yeah.
Again, I think he's been decent at Brighton. Inzaghi from Inter Milan, gone to the Champions League final. And then number 10 is Xavi, Barcelona. And he won the La Liga title. He's at number 10.
I mean, I think go on.
I was going to say, I just think I think Arteta is fairly placed in that.
I just think if you look back, so last year we had a great season. Brenwan, like you say, we didn't win anything. The season before that, we came 5th, and we capitulated towards the end. Before that, I think it was 8th, and that's Arteta's season. So he's got a good growth trajectory there. But winnativity, not sure. Yeah, I'd hope so. But like I said, there's a lot of, he's a very young manager in world football. And I think that, you look at those other managers and there's a lot of tenure. Carlo, Pep, there's a lot of tenure in those managers there compared to, this is Arteta's first job.
Yeah. 3
years. That is to put you 4th and you're in that company. That's a big deal. I don't think he's 4. I disagree with you. I think he's ill placed. But I do think I think this. I said this to you. I don't think there's any project in world football better than ours right now. If you were a player and you were looking to make a move, particularly if you're like 20, 21, and you're looking to make a move to a club where you're going to grow, you're going to learn, you're going to adapt, you're going to get the opportunity. I don't think there's any better project than ours, and I think that is showing through this ranking here. Arteta is a fantastic manager, and he knows how to get the best out of players at a certain age as well. He has. I think I saw on Twitter someone called it an aura, and it was such a good word. Like I think when he met Timber, I don't know if you watched the video of when he met Timber, and it just felt like he just commands like a lot. He has gravitas. He has like spark. It's great to watch, and players just like really do kind of gravitate towards it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've heard me say this many times. Like, I've never, and don't want to say won't ever, but I've never been like a Mikel out guy, even when we were having the bad phase. So for me, I still remember the first press conference he ever gave, and it's the professionalism and the message that he communicated in his first press conference was just so strong, effective, and just showed a really good leader, just a really strong leader. Like I compare it a lot to you and I, not to give away where we work, but we work in IT, we work in the corporate ladder, and I can relate the values to many leaders that I've had and people that I look to. and I saw that in his press conference, and I was like, that's different. That's not your typical football manager. It's not your typical British football manager either. Like, there's something there. He's there to nurture players. He's there to change principles, to add that class which we want back into the club. And I just, from that first press conference, I was behind him, and I always had, because you can see what he's doing. I think,
he's incredibly human, like you say. He's so he can feel it.
And this, like, change doesn't happen immediately. And so if you have a bad period of 8 games, and we've had a few periods with Arteta where we've had quite a bad run, but he's not even thinking about that. It's a longer game than that. It's a longer game. It's the same with life. You have peaks and troughs. Like, it's a longer game, and you just have to back him for the long game. And that's what we're doing. It's what we're doing now. It's what we did last year, what we did the season before in the transfer market. And last season was just justification. It was like, he said he's got a 5-point plan. And I think he said last year we were at number 3. Maybe we're number 4 now.
I think last year we were ahead of where we were supposed to be.
Yeah. So for me, it's like, well, it's a long game. He knows where he's going. Stick to the plan.
Yeah.
Stick to the plan. It's like any work that we do. We have a plan. We follow it. If something messes up, you find your way to get back on track. Put some mitigation in place. That's all it is. So yeah, I back him 100%.
Do you want
my
to?
Manager.
My manager. There's a lot of different positions to go through. I suppose, in the interest of time, Jace, do you want to pick one more position, and let's have a little bit of a debate and discussion on that one.
All right, I'm gonna pick. So I'll very quickly not go through them, but I'll list off. So Odegaard got number 2 in attacking midfielders. Kevin De Bruyne was first.
Number 2. Wow.
I actually think that's. I mean, if you're comparing to Kevin De Bruyne, yeah, okay, but I think Odegaard was better than De Bruyne last year. I think Grealish was amazing for City, and so was Gundogan. I think. Anyway, I won't go into that, so I'm not going to talk about attacking midfield. Zinni, number 3, left backs. Saliba was number 4 in centre backs, which I thought was maybe a little bit high, if I'm honest. But he was definitely a top 10 in my opinion. I don't know if he would have been number 4, but no Gabriel. And I thought Gabriel was solid last year. So Laporte was number 1. No, Laporte, sorry. With Ruben Diaz, not Laporte.
Diaz, yeah.
Ramsdale number 8 in keepers, but Martinez from Villa was number 9, and Nick Pope was number 10. So I was a bit like,
Who's number 1 in goalkeepers?
I'll tell you, it was.
It can't be
Thibaut Courtois.
Okay, yeah, it can't be Edison.
Nah, he was number 7.
Yeah, I think it's weird that the Premier League goalkeepers rank so lowly in comparison to world football.
Yeah. Right backs, no Ben White. But, Trent Alexander-Arnold was in there, number 6. Trippier was in there.
And Trent had an awful season at right back.
Yeah, that's the thing for me. It was like, yeah, that doesn't make sense.
I don't know whether or not this feels to me like it's have you heard of recency bias? So you're bringing in current performances and stuff. It feels like the opposite of that. Unrecency bias, if you can have such a thing.
The big one, wingers, Saka, number 1, best in the world. I agree with that.
I wouldn't disagree with it either. And I think you look at, I think there was I think that tells you about the value of a club in world football. I think we've just overtaken Man City in terms of our value of our club by players.
We spent half of what they did.
Well, I know. Yeah,
60% of what they spent.
Yeah, but I think Declan Rice just tipped us over with that 100 million. But I think Saka's value is something 120, 130 million or something on those ones.
Yeah, I think he could go for the Neymar and then Mbappe fees will always be the world record fees. If we ever beat them, then something's gone wrong. But if you take out those 2 odd situations, I think if you sold him right now, it should have been a world record fee. I think for him.
Yeah.
Jesus at number 6. in strikers.
That does quite surprise me. I just don't think he's.
Yeah.
Well, he's not a goal scorer. I know this sounds really bad. He is a good striker. I'm not saying, but he just feels to me he's not. I think next year we're going to go big on Project Goal Scorer, and it's going to be we're going to need someone really big to kind of put us in the upper echelons of what we need to do in this league. You look at what Man City did. Man City were able to remove players, and they got a robot, right? They got a goal scoring absolute unit who doesn't matter what they do in and around that player as long as they've got him. And I think that's what we're going to need, someone of that ilk. There's not many about, but for me, I don't think he's number 6 in the world by any means.
Where's
Vlahovic? Vlahovic must be on that number somewhere.
Yeah, he's on there somewhere. I'm not going to open it because we'll move on. But I would agree with you, and I'd just say that he does so much more for Arsenal that other teams would say he's not good enough because he's not scoring goals. But we value him for other things, and it was proven last year. Because we were also worried when he got injured. So so the one I want to talk about, midfielders, top 10 midfielders, and this is interesting. You say recency bias is you were saying the opposite of recency bias. Yeah. No Partey, no Xhaka, and no Rice in the top 10 midfielders.
Okay, I'm assuming Rodri was probably number 1. At least in the top 3.
Bellingham number 1.
Okay.
Rodri number 2. Pedri 3. Gundogan 4. Modric 5. Casemiro 6.
I mean, yeah,
he's good, but I don't know. He got sent off loads in the Premier League.
I was going to say, if you were looking at it just in like last season in isolation, I would look at that and say that Xhaka for the first 6 months of the year was untouchable. He was in that role. He was better than Rodri for the first half of that season. Granted, I don't think he initially dropped off like on himself, but as a unit we dropped off, and thus playing in that system meant a big deal to him.
Yeah.
But I think Xhaka deserves to be in there. I've always rated, I've rated Xhaka ever since he's been at this club. You look at every manager that we've had, he's the first name on the team sheet for every single one of them.
Yeah, and he's tied himself up, didn't he, last year? Like no red cards. He knew the line. He still gave it some to players.
That's what you need. You need some players.
He knew the line. He knew the line, and he matured. If we'd have done that a few years earlier, that would have been maybe a bit better for us. But,
the fact that you said that as well, Casemiro, I don't know how many red cards. It felt like a lot, probably 2, maybe 3 last year. But he's a good player. I'm not denying it, but I think he's past it somewhat. He still obviously can read the game very, very well, but he doesn't necessarily have the guile and pace for the Premier League. And some of his challenges are a real big petulance in his game. I just can't understand. I think they're ranking that based upon historic context and everything together, rather than just saying, if you were to look at that last season as a season and then judging players based on that, I think you'd come up with a different number, personally speaking.
Yeah, I think so. Finally, Alexis McAllister, number 7. Won the World Cup, but again, he's got to move to Liverpool. He's obviously a very good midfielder. Kimmich, number 8, Bayern Munich. That's fair. Yeah. I expected him to be there. Frankie de Jong. I haven't watched enough of Barca to comment, to be honest. I know they won the league. So
there's been a couple of things linking us to him as a potential replacement in that thing. So he must be, and he's young as well, right? He must be like early to mid-20s.
Yeah. And then Newcastle's Bruno is number 10. And that's the one for me.
Turned us down.
But that's the thing. When you see Man United and Newcastle centre mids in that list, and
not ours,
Xhaka and Partey. But then what stung me more was Rice not being in there.
Do you think that's just because he's in West Ham?
Yeah, I think so.
I know this is not
McAllister's just at Brighton. Well, was just at Brighton. So
but like I say, he won the World Cup. So I think that's probably like for me. Like I mentioned to my wife, and I said, "Oh, Declan Rice," and she's like, "Oh, you won't stop going on about this guy. Who is he?" She didn't know who he was, and that's because he's not a name in world football because he plays for West Ham. And that's not to downplay West Ham by any means, but like it is an actual fact, and I think that is. I think being with us is going to elevate him.
Yeah, I mean, he's played for England, hasn't he, for a long, long time. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he's well known here. I don't know how far well known he is.
Yeah, I think we're going
abroad.
to give the Champions League stage is going to be a big stage for him to really set the world on fire. I
Yeah.
think.
You know the Muller. Have you seen the Muller ads? where he's
Yeah,
done?
I have. Yeah.
So obviously, I'm on the smart TV downstairs. I'm always watching YouTube videos, and obviously, I watch so many Arsenal ones. And now, for some reason, every time even me or my wife watches YouTube videos, the Muller Rice Baby ad comes on, and Jazz is like, "I'm sick of seeing this ad now," and she's like, "And I'm sick of you singing that song."
It's got osmosis into your head. Hearing that on the car journeys up to the ground, then.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to sing it. I made some lyrics. I did some lyrics. I'm not going to do a stupid thing on these podcasts and sing them, but we'll sing them in the ground.
We'll save those.
Yeah.
All right, that was good, Jason. Thanks for going through that and giving us some insight into where those top 100 are kind of lying. And we're coming up to almost now on the show, so we're probably going to close out. Before we do, we've got a thing that we call the parking lot. The parking lot is effectively, if you're at a work meeting, sometimes there's going to be discussion, there's going to be topics, there's going to be things you wanted to get off your chest that weren't naturally going to fit into the meeting, and so you add it to the parking lot at the end. Is there anything for you, Jason, that you'd like to whack in the parking lot, whether it's Arsenal or not, that you'd like to discuss?
Something I forgot to say, which is we still need to sign a winger. I think I didn't say that. I quite like Diaby. It's not Diaby. Diaby.
It's not Diaby.
Yeah, from Leverkusen. My friend's a Leverkusen season ticket holder, and he highly rates him. So, I think as a reserve to Saka, I'd maybe like to see him. I think. So yeah, that's the Arsenal bit, and just to add, we set all of our social media up. So I think in the link to the video, we'll just add all of our handles for all of our social media platforms, but there's nothing up right now, so I don't expect to see anything.
Yeah, we're going to be building that over, I suppose, the next few weeks as we do more of these podcasts. One thing I was going to add, hopefully, when this goes onto YouTube, if you've got any questions for us or anything you'd like us to bring up in maybe the parking lot or otherwise, do stick it in the YouTube comments. Do give this video a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed this content. We will be trying to do an episode every week. And hopefully in and around the games, myself and Jason do try and go to as many games as we possibly can. So hopefully we'll be able to give you some good updates from the ground, including some new songs like Jace is going to do. He's going to give us some Rice Baby songs in the stands. So look forward to that. For me, the only thing I was going to say, have you seen the Declan Rice Adidas video with Ian Wright? I'm assuming.
Oh, I forgot that was my main. That was meant to be my main topic with Rice Baby. That video was just Adidas. Just if we ever go back to Puma, Jesus Christ.
On that subject, did you see this? That the Nike have been replaced with the Premier League football to Puma.
Yeah, that's
disgusting.
A joke.
I just don't want it. I don't want it anywhere near. Yeah, it's horrible.
But no, that video was awesome. You got Righty in it. Just.
Yeah, I think if Adidas have obviously built some iconic shirts. I think last year, the pink one and the black one, particularly last year, and I don't think we even wore the pink one that often. Both incredible shirts. We've had so many, and I just think we're just a big shirt printing company now. I think that's like the green one. Can't wait for the green one. I'm desperate to get that one.
I'm still getting it. I'm getting the away one as well. I mean, the pictures of it don't look great, but as I said, I
want to see it.
Saves us wearing a neon bibs on Monday Night Football when we go play. When you bring the neon bibs out, we just wear our Arsenal shirts. It's much better.
Yeah. I would say I think that it's one of those shirts that feels to me it's going to be iconic. It's like, if you look back now, it's how why didn't I buy that kit 5 years ago, and now you can't get it for love nor money, and it's making bags on the eBay. I think that's what that shirt's going to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be awkward if you don't buy it when we've lifted the Champions League title with it. So,
All right, we're gonna save the ideas of grandeur for the next podcast. Jace, keep our powder dry for future episodes. Really do want to thank anybody that's listened and watched this. Really do thank you for your support. And hopefully you've enjoyed, and please do come back for more. Other than that, that's me signing off and Jace signing off too. Thank you very much. Speak to you all again soon.
Cheers, Grev. Cheers, guys. Thanks for listening.
See you later.
Speak to you soon.